Hello everyone, Ryan here. Just wanted to drop in and make this video here to share some providence or miracles that God has done in my life in the past year or so. This video is going to be split into two main parts. I'm going to be looking around a little bit as we go throughout the video. I have some notes up here, so if you see me looking up or over, that's why I'm doing that. But there's going to be two main parts to this video. There's going to be one part where I share a miracle where I shared my personal testimony with someone last year and it ended up being very providential or miraculous, and about how that came to its conclusion. And also there's going to be a miracle that I'll call the farm herd share miracle, and that's going to be a second part of the video. So I'll put a timestamp on the video right about now and put that for the timestamp for the second miracle. That'll be sort of in the middle of the video for the farm herd share miracle. So if you're just here to watch that part, you can skip to that part. Otherwise, for the full context, you'll want to watch the whole video all the way through. So I guess I'll go ahead and get started with the first miracle. So going back to about April or so of last year, I was on my phone one day. I think I was on Facebook and looking at Facebook Reels, and I came across this random post from a woman that was Christian. It was a Christian post. I could tell by the text that was in the center of the screen that was on the thumbnail. It mentioned Jesus or God or something like that, so I decided to click on it. So I went ahead and watched the video, and I thought the content was good. And then right after I watched this video, this voice, like in my spirit, not an audible voice, but a voice in my spirit, starts talking to me, speaking to me about this person. I'm not going to mention what was said by this voice, because to this day I still don't know if it was God or if it was Satan or another spirit or something like that. I don't know the source of this voice. I just mentioned this because this is my first interaction with this person's posts or with this person's social media profile, and that context is going to come in to be important later on in this video. So anyway, I watched this post. I think the content is good, and then after I click off of this post, this voice in my spirit, or the spiritual voice, starts speaking to me about this person. I'm very confused. I'm rather dismissive to what I'm hearing, and basically I'm just kind of bamboozled about what's going on. I don't know what the source of this voice is. I just know that it's speaking to me about this person, and essentially I just try to brush the whole thing off. I don't see any more posts from this person. I never went to their account page. I just saw a post from them on my Facebook Reels, and that was about the end of it. So after that, time went on. A few weeks later, another one of this lady's posts popped up on my feed, actually the day after I made a testimony video. So this is the first video that I ever made to share my own personal testimony. So essentially this video revolved around a motorcycle accident and a concussion that I had back in 2016, so about 10 years ago now. Essentially what had happened was I had a dirt bike accident which led to a severe concussion. I was very disturbed and unwell, both physically and also kind of mentally. After that, I was very concerned about what the future was going to hold for me, about my health and well-being, and my ability to function mentally. So I was kind of desperate for God's help during this time, immediately after this concussion. And up until that point in my life, I'd been a Christian, but I never really had a living relationship with God. I'd never heard God speak to me before. I honestly wasn't that involved in my relationship with God. I didn't have a lot of concern for it, which obviously wasn't a good thing. So this concussion actually ended up being a great blessing in disguise, as it would lead me closer to God in my relationship with Him. So essentially after I have this concussion, I am desperate for God's help, like I said, and a couple weeks after, or about a week or so, I'm not exactly sure, it's been so long, after I had this concussion, essentially I start waking up at 6:16 exactly every morning, and I come to a realization of that maybe a handful of days after it starts happening, and I realize, I'm waking up at 6:16 every morning, maybe there's a reason for this. And I heard a voice speak to me in my spirit, and it said John. So I go to John 6:16, which reads, "When evening came, his disciples went down to the lake," and I happen to live near a lake. So I thought maybe God is trying to speak to me and telling me to go meet him down at this lake. So I get this idea. I'm not sure if it was from me or from God, or I have this idea to go down to this beach and meet God at 6:16 p.m. it's kind of a strange idea, kind of abstract, but just this idea that popped into my mind. Again, I'm not sure if it was from God or from myself. And I meet God down there, or God meets me down there, whatever way you want to look at it. And he speaks to me multiple times, and his voice was so loud, it was like I had a loudspeaker in my head. It was very miraculous, very strange, and he gave me promises and encouragement when he spoke to me there at that beach. And then after I left the beach and went back to my house, he gave me like this indescribable peace and his presence that lasted for maybe a couple hours. I can't remember exactly, but just this indescribable peace that was just so amazing and comforting in the middle of this turmoil that I was in with this brain injury that I had and all the uncertainty that came with that. So that's essentially what the beginning of this testimony video that I shared was about, was this concussion, God speaking to me and giving me promises and giving me his peace. And then it was all the years in between that point where God gave me all these encouraging promises. And then after that was just many years of suffering and hardship, both in my health and in my circumstances, where I was just going through some really hard times with my health due to this brain injury. And I was kind of confused, like, God, I thought you said everything was going to be okay, and here I am struggling with all these health issues with my brain and with my body, and just kind of going through a lot of uncertainties in my circumstances and in my health also. And eventually God allowed me to regain some of my health, or I wasn't struggling as much as I was previously, is a better way to put it. And that sort of concludes to what was present day last year when I shared my testimony. I covered pretty much everything that was big picture as far as what was in that testimony video. So essentially, in this testimony video, I mentioned the concussion from the motorcycle accident that I had, mentioned God speaking to me and giving me promises and his peace shortly after that for that one meeting I had down at the lake. I mentioned the hardships and sufferings that I went through and all the years in between that point in time to present day. And then I mentioned present day, how God allowed me to regain a good portion of my health, and he helped me through the really hard times that I had to go through with the promises that he gave me, as well as using all of those hardships and things that I had to go through for my spiritual good as well, and to draw me into closer relationship with him. So that was the testimony video that God told me to share with this person. So essentially, like I said, one of her posts popped up on my Facebook feed again the day after I made this video. So I made this video, I think April 13th of last year. So April 14th, this video pops up. It was the first post that I'd seen since the first post that I saw a couple weeks prior. So one of her posts pops up. I go to click on it. This voice is still speaking to me about this person, and I'm still like being very dismissive about it, like kind of not sure what to believe, if this is God's voice, if it's not God's voice. But one thing was certain, and that's that this voice was telling me that I need to share my testimony with this person. And it was very persistent about that, kept on telling me, you need to share your testimony with this person. And her name was Sia. I don't know if I mentioned that up until this point, but this person's name was Sia. So this voice kept on telling me, you need to share your testimony with them. And at this point, I started to kind of realize, I think this is the Holy Spirit at least telling me about the part of sharing my testimony. So I'll just call it the Holy Spirit from this point on. So the Holy Spirit starts telling me as I'm sitting at my computer, you need to share your testimony with her. You need to share your testimony with Sia. So I'm like very conflicted at this point. I'm not sure what to do. I have all these hesitations and reservations going on in my flesh and in my mind, thinking like, well, like I don't know this person. It's kind of strange for me to be a stranger out of the blue, contacting them on social media, telling them that God told me to share my testimony with them. What if they get the wrong idea? What if they think that I have bad intentions or am misguided? Just a whole laundry list of things. Me being more introverted than extroverted, I wasn't really super comfortable right off the bat with contacting a random stranger. So I had all these reservations and hesitations going on in my mind and in my flesh about why I shouldn't do this. But this voice, the Holy Spirit, kept on speaking to me, telling me as I'm sitting there, you need to share your testimony with Sia. You need to share your testimony with this person. So I go ahead and I send them an email, and I think I also direct message them on social media, essentially just saying, "Hi, I don't know you, but God told me to share my testimony with you. May God bless you as you watch," or something like that. So I sent them this message or email or direct message, whatever you want to call it, and essentially didn't really have very many expectations, but I didn't really expect them to ever really read it. They had at this time like close to 1 million followers on social media, so I'm thinking there's no way that this person is gonna read a comment from some random guy that apparently God told them to send their testimony to them. I didn't expect them to either ever see it, or even if they did see it, I don't think that they would really, expect them to watch it, even though God told me to share my testimony with them. So didn't really have any expectations as far as what was going to happen after that, but I was still kind of conflicted about if this was really God's voice that I was hearing or not. It was telling me to share my testimony. I was afraid of disobeying it if it was truly God's voice, so that was part of the reason why I ended up sharing my testimony with them. But I still had some hesitations and reservations, just kind of confused, like not sure if this really is God's voice or if it's a deception or some other spirit or what have you. So essentially I send them that testimony video and just wait essentially for something to happen. Maybe they were going to get back to me, maybe they were going to message me back letting me know that they watched the video. I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but at this point it was just a waiting game where God called me to share my testimony with them, and then I was just waiting after that to see what was going to happen. So a couple weeks go by, or a week, I'm not exactly sure, I can't remember fully how long it took, but I felt led to send a follow-up email to them, basically asking them if they watched the video, and if they did, what they got out of it, if God spoke to them through it, or what have you. I wasn't sure, I'm not sure retrospectively if that was my own curiosity getting the best of me, leading me to follow up with them, or if it was truly God's voice that was telling me to send them the follow-up email. But either way, I did send them a follow-up email just checking in to see if they had watched it or not. I got an email back, but it wasn't from them. It was from someone who manages their emails for them. And essentially they were, in the email that they sent me back, they were accusing me of having bad motives, or having twisted motives for the reason that I was contacting them. They didn't think that I was truly, genuinely sending them that video just because God led me to. They thought I had different motives for that. And they said that if I was going to continue contacting them anymore, that they were going to get the law involved. So I was completely shocked and just taken aback by that email. I was really confused leading up to it as far as if it was truly God's voice speaking to me to send that message or not, send that video or not. And then I get this email essentially saying that I'm deceived, and if I continue trying to contact them, they're going to get the law involved. So I was just taken aback and extremely sorry and extremely apologetic. So I emailed them back, just apologizing profusely, letting them know that I didn't have any bad intentions. And I think it was either at that point or shortly after that I essentially just deleted everything that I had sent them, sent to Sia, to the woman that God told me to send my testimony video to. So I deleted all the comment or the messages that I sent to them. I deleted the emails, just essentially kind of panicking, thinking that I'm being deceived, and just needed to get rid of all of the things that I'd sent to them so they wouldn't have to see it, or they wouldn't have to be bothered by it anymore. So I'm essentially at a crisis point at this point where I'm like, I think I'm being deceived. I thought this voice was the Holy Spirit speaking to me, telling me to share my testimony. I thought I was trusting God and doing what He told me to do, but now it seems to be apparent that I'm being deceived. And I'm just very confused, and I'm begging God in tears to tell me what I'm doing wrong, or help me to understand or see if I'm being deceived as to the reason why I was told to share my testimony with this person. And the only thing I keep hearing is just trust me, just trust me, trust me for the reason that I told you to send your testimony video to Sia. And I'm just, again, very confused. I'm very perplexed at this point. Not sure what's going on, not sure if I'm truly hearing God's voice for me to share the video with them. So at this point, after this interaction with the email manager happens, essentially the Holy Spirit keeps on telling me to trust me and pray for Sia. trust me and pray for Sia. So I'm being told to trust in God for telling me to share the testimony video with her and whatever his dealings are with me now, and to pray for Sia. So this essentially started happening every day, multiple times a day for a couple months going on repetitively. So every day I'd be told multiple times to trust God and pray for Sia, and being led to keep on praying for her. So I'm very confused as to what's going on. I don't know why I'm being continuously told to pray for this person. At first I didn't really have many hesitations to pray for them, but as it kept on going on for months and months, I was kind of like confused and taken aback, like, why am I being told to pray for this person so much? Why am I being told repetitively to keep on praying for them, even though I just prayed for them earlier in the day or the day before? I wasn't sure what was going on or what was happening, but essentially I just don't know. I just know that I'm being told to trust God and to pray for this person. So that's what I'm continuing to do. I still continue to have doubts, like, is this really God's voice that I'm hearing? Is this a deception? I just keep on being led to trust God and pray for Sia, so that's what I was continuing to do. So at this point, it's probably sometime in June or July at this point. I can't remember exactly what time this event happened, but this is what I'm going into now, is the farm herd share miracle that I mentioned earlier. So this was a second miracle that was, in my perception, almost done in order to build my faith to trust God that he was truly speaking to me in relation to the first thing with sending my testimony to the Sia person. So I could be completely wrong in that understanding of that, but that's perceivingly how it went down, how it happened. So essentially, I'm going to this local farm one day, a farm that I get raw milk from, and as I'm driving, I'm just going along, and I hear what I think is the Holy Spirit, but I'm not sure, say to me, "You're going to need to find a new farm to get raw milk from, but not yet. You don't need to find a new farm yet." And I'm just very perplexed and taken aback and thinking about this, like, okay, so I need to find a new farm because I'm not going to be able to get raw milk from the old farm anymore for some reason, but not to look for one yet. So I'm kind of confused, trying to break this down. Still not sure, am I hearing from God? Am I not hearing from God? Just kind of confused and perplexed about that. So I go to the farm, get my milk as normal. I don't say anything to anyone else about this. So I'm just sort of like keeping that in the back of my mind as I go throughout my daily life for the next however long, until something else happened or until I was spoken to again. So I essentially go back home, and it could have been the same day, could have been another day. I go online and I start researching farms to get raw milk from in the area, since apparently I'm not going to be able to get it from my same farm that I had been. And the voice says the same thing, or the Holy Spirit says the same thing. You're going to need to find a new farm to get raw milk from, but not yet. You don't need to look for one yet. You can stop looking for one now. So I stopped researching. I'm just kind of confused and not sure what to think, but I just kind of like file that in the back of my mind and just go about my daily life for the next probably week and a half, 2 weeks or so. And at that point, I received an email from, we'll break it down into two farms. There's two farms that are involved in the operation. Farm A is the host farm. They're the farm that owns the property and the land, where Farm B puts their cattle on, and Farm B is the one that ran the herd share operation. So essentially how a herd share works is it allows customers to buy into the herd. So you buy a portion of the herd essentially so you can get the raw milk from the animals. So Farm B was the farm that ran the herd share operation from what I understand, and they ran the herd share operation and gave the raw milk to the customers. And Farm A was the farm that owned the land, that basically lent the land to Farm B, or rented the land out to Farm B. So there's those two farms involved, and I get an email from Farm B essentially saying that their operation is stopping at Farm A, and Farm B is moving somewhere else in the state a couple hours away, and they're essentially downsizing and making a union with a different farm. So that was my understanding from that email. So I got that email and I was shocked, because just a couple weeks before I get told by this voice in my spirit speaking to me, you're going to need to find a new farm to get raw milk from, but not yet. You don't need to look for one yet. So I'm like, okay, so Farm B is not necessarily going out of business, but they're moving away. So they're not going to be here anymore to distribute raw milk on Farm A's land. So after that point, Farm A sends an email to the customers that get milk at Farm A from Farm B. And they say to the Farm A and Farm B customers, like, Farm A said that, like, we didn't see this coming. This was out of nowhere. We're not sure what we're gonna do. We're either gonna like exit that industry, or we're gonna try to start our own herd share operation on our own. And from what I remember from the emails, they like weren't exactly sure what they were gonna do. It was up in the air. They're Christians as well, and they said that they were praying about it and seeking God's will about it. So essentially everything was going to be up in the air for a little while. And then shortly after that, in more email correspondence, Farm A said that they were indeed going to start a herd share, and shortly after they started a herd share last year. So what was spoken to me by that voice or by the Holy Spirit came to pass exactly like the Holy Spirit said that it would. That I was going to need to find a new farm to get raw milk from, but I didn't need to look for one, because Farm A was going to take over and start a new herd share ran completely on Farm A by Farm A. So essentially everything that was spoken to me by the Holy Spirit happened exactly the way that the Holy Spirit said that it would. I just didn't understand what exactly was going to happen yet. So not only did the Holy Spirit tell me the future, but the Holy Spirit told me the future with multiple different moving pieces involved, with two different entities with these farms that had multiple different decisions to make in different timelines, and everything was basically spoken to me ahead of time exactly the way that it would end up playing out. So at this point I'm realizing, like, I think this is really God's voice that's speaking to me, and I can't remember if it was spoken to me explicitly or if this was just the impression that was given to me after I realized this miracle, because I'm like jaw dropped, like completely taken aback after this farm herd share miracle happens, where the Holy Spirit tells me the future about what's going to happen to these farms, to this farm and the operation on it. I'm just like completely taken aback, completely shocked. And at that point, like I said, it was either an impression that was given to me or it was spoken to me by the Holy Spirit. But it essentially was like, now trust me about the reason why you sent Sia that testimony video and keep praying for her. Like, trust me and keep praying for her. So I'm like, it's clicking a little bit more now. Like, I really think that this is God's voice that's been speaking to me about sending this testimony to this person, as well as praying for them. I think this is really God's voice, and it's like the farm herd share miracle was partially spoken to me and done in order to build my faith, to get me to trust God more about the testimony sharing miracle. So I'm not going to try to even guess that I have all the insight as to why God does certain things the way that he does. I could be completely off in my understanding of why things were done the way that they were, or how things were portrayed to me the way that they were, but that's just my inference at this point in time, so I could be completely wrong. So at this point, it's probably late June going into July. So the farm herd share miracle happens, and I feel like I have a bit more faith and confidence that I'm really hearing from God. He's still telling me to pray for this person pretty much every day. I'm still doing so. I'm still like very perplexed as to why I'm being continuously told to, though, but I know that there's some meaning as to why I'm being told to pray for this person. I just don't have it yet. So I go back to this person's social media page. I was checking it periodically, basically ever since I was first spoken to about this person, and as far as like being told to share my testimony with them, partially because I liked their content. I thought it was encouraging and really good, and partially because I was curious maybe that they were going to make a post, like if they ever did see the testimony video that I shared with them. Maybe they were going to make a post if it spoke to them and if they were encouraged by it. Maybe they were going to mention something, and I want to make sure I didn't miss something like that if that was ever going to happen. So I go back on this person's social media page, on Sia's social media page in July, and I'm really shocked by what I see at this point in time. So I'm back on Sia's page in July, and I see some posts that she made. At this point, it's been probably like a week or two since I'd last checked her posts, most likely, so it had been a while since I'd been on her page. And I start seeing these posts about her being recovering from a car accident. So I'm kind of shocked and concerned about this person, just like for their welfare, thinking like maybe this is the reason why I've been being told to pray so much. So I look at their posts to kind of get a better understanding as to what's happening or what happened. And apparently they were, after they were at a conference or some sort of spiritual meeting of sorts, where they were praying against the spirit of drunkenness. They were driving home or driving back from that meeting, and they were struck by a drunk driver doing like 100 something miles an hour. It was like a complete and total miracle that this person was still alive, and it was quite the coincidence that they were struck by a drunk driver after praying against the spirit of drunkenness. So essentially they had this car accident and they got a really bad or severe concussion as a result of it. So they're making all these posts talking about how they're struggling with dealing with these concussion symptoms and they're struggling with their recovery. I'm seeing these posts, and at first my heart's just like broken for this person, because I myself went through pretty much all the same exact things, except I didn't have a car accident, but I went through the dealing with the concussion symptoms and being scared or taken aback or upset about those as far as how I was going to heal from them. I went through the same thing with questioning God as to why God would allow this to happen. I went through the same thing with questioning God as to why He wasn't healing me from the issues that I was having from the concussion. I went through the same thing with dealing with reconciling the current state that I was in to the fact that God had just recently given me promises and encouragement saying that everything was going to be okay. So essentially I'm seeing in what this person is going through the posts that they're making on their social media, talking about how they're struggling with the concussion recovery. They're struggling with just dealing with the symptoms and the car accident side effects. And I'm seeing so much of what I went through and what I shared in the testimony video that I made. I'm seeing like an exact mirror image of that in what this person is going through. So it's at this point where I'm seeing the posts that they're making, what they're sharing and what they're talking about, and the experience that they went through having a severe car accident and then a severe concussion. It's like a mirror image of what I was talking about in the testimony video that I shared with them about me having that motorcycle accident, then having a severe concussion, and talking about and sharing about how God helped me through the hard times with that, and how I was able to trust and hold on to the promises that He gave me to help me through those hard and difficult times, and how He pulled me through in the end. And I didn't lose my life. I was able to recover from a good portion of the cognitive side effects that I was having from the concussion. Most of them are either significantly better or have gone away now, as opposed to when I first had the accident and first had the concussion. So it was like I was seeing a mirror image of what happened to me, what I shared in that testimony video that I was told to share with Sia. The same thing was going on in her life through the car accident and the concussion that Sia had. So it was really miraculous in how everything happened, and it was at that point that it was like everything clicked for me, that I could understand why God, and understand that it truly was God speaking to me, telling me to share my testimony with them. I understood why God was telling me to pray for them so much for months and months and months, from April all the way to July. I understood why He was telling me to pray for them so persistently. I understood why I was told to share the concussion testimony, why I was prompted to put that in the testimony in the first place, aside from the fact that it was such a large part of what I had been through in my relationship with God. So I fully understood, or more fully understood at that point, why I was told to share my testimony with them, why the Holy Spirit was so persistent in leading me to do so, why I was being so persistently told to pray for this person. And it was like I had a full circle moment in July when I saw those posts that they were making on social media, helping me to understand like why everything happened the way that it did. I still don't fully understand or have understanding as to why I was told to share the testimony with them if they were never going to watch it. Like the people who managed their emails was, I would presume, never would have let see the video because they thought that I had bad motives. Maybe potentially the main reason that God told me to share my testimony with them was to build my faith in order to see how God put everything full circle, going from leading me to share my concussion testimony video to someone who is later going to have a concussion and go through the same exact type of situation. That's just a hypothetical thought. Maybe that was the reason for this whole experience, was to have something to show me how God brought everything full circle and led me to trust Him for a reason. Maybe it wasn't necessarily about getting Sia to watch the video so that she would be encouraged in the front of her trial. That's the reason after the fact that I thought that I was supposed to share the video with her, was in order to give her encouragement and some sort of hope before, preemptively, before she was going to go through the same exact trial. That would be the most logical answer as to why I was told to share the testimony with them. They're getting ready in a few months to go through a car accident and a concussion and dealing with concussion recovery, and I'm being led to share a accident and concussion recovery testimony and how God helped me through that months before they have the accident. So one would then believe that I'm being led to share this video preemptively to give them encouragement and consolation and comfort before they go through the same exact type of circumstance and same exact type of trial. Maybe that wasn't the reason. If they never ended up seeing the video, if they never saw the video, then they would have no way of getting that encouragement and seeing the connection between the video that God led me to share with them and the trial that they were soon going to have to experience. So that, for that reason, I say maybe it was just to build my faith in God and build my faith and encourage me in my walk with God, to see how God could bring something like that full circle and lead me through something that was very confusing at the time. I wasn't sure why I was led to share my testimony with someone who was never going to be able to see it or never see it for whatever reason. I wasn't sure why I was being led to pray for someone so continuously. So I don't have all the answers. I can't even begin to describe the way that God works or the reasons for His doing things. So I'm not even going to pretend like I have the answers, but those are the main points that I sort of concluded to, or maybe the reasons why things happened the way that they did. But those are certainly the main points that I feel like happened, or the reasonings for why I was told to share that video, because I was led to share that concussion recovery, and through God's dealings, all the things that happened in that video preemptively before the Sia person was going to go through the same exact set of trials. So I went through an accident and a concussion. God helped me through it. She was going to have to go through an accident and a concussion, and through seeing the video that God led me to share with her would give her hope to see how God helped someone else through the same thing that she was going to have to go through. So that's just my insight on that. But it was very miraculous and very faith-inspiring to see how God took something that started so simply, just with leading me to send a testimony video to a stranger, then turned it into this very elaborate miracle where this person is going to go through the same exact set of circumstances in the same exact trial a few months later, and He's going to lead this person's post to appear on my computer the day after I make my testimony video so I can share it to them. And there's all sorts of other details as well that happen throughout this set of times that are miraculous, or just really awe-inspiring to see how God was in control of all the different details and metrics and things that were going on. So it was really awe-inspiring and really faith-building for me to see how God worked through everything and how God used and redeemed the confusion that was going on with me not being sure why I was being told to do all these things and pray and share the video, later coming to a fuller understanding as to why. And He also answered a prayer that I've been praying for a long time as well, of God, please use what I'm going through to help somebody else. That was a prayer that I started praying very early on after I had my injury, was essentially hoping and praying that God would be able to redeem and use the situation that I was going through, however meaningless the suffering felt at the time, to be able to be a blessing or an encouragement or be of help to someone else. And I had never seen anything really come out of those circumstances that I went through, all the years of dealing with concussion issues or dealing with hardships in my circumstances, or just dealing with hardships in general, where I wasn't sure what the reason for it was. I knew that God could be working it for my good, for my spiritual good, for my spiritual growth, but I wanted what I had been through, especially with like the concussion injury and things like that, I wanted that to be a blessing to someone else, like for God to use that testimony of how he helped me through that to be a blessing to somebody else as well. And that's exactly what happened through this circumstance with Sia, where I had that injury. I went through the hardships. I went through having to trust God through the hard, dark times. And then there was going to be someone else that was going to have to go through the same exact thing. And I was led to share my testimony with them months ahead of time so that they would be able to see that and get encouraged from it and take that experience that they had. That was loud thunder. Sorry. Take that experience that I had and be able to lead that and use that as a tool or as encouragement to get them through the hard times that they were going to have to go through as well. So I think that's everything that I have to say about the testimony sharing miracle and the farm herd share miracle. I guess if there's anything that I want to wrap up with, it would just be hopefully you can take this video and take the providence and the miracles that God did in my life and use that as some encouragement to be able to encourage yourself to trust the Holy Spirit in your own life. It can be hard and difficult at times to fully trust God, especially if you don't have maybe a track record in your own life of times where you've had to trust God in the past, that he's either leading you to do something or telling you to make a step into something or out of something, or maybe even telling someone to or leading you to share your testimony with someone. The first times that you can go through those things can be kind of scary and difficult to go through, and if you don't have a track record in your past of God's faithfulness of leading you through something in the past, it can make it more difficult. Not to say that God doesn't give us grace and help us through those things, but I just wanted this to be these things to be examples as to of God's faithfulness, as to how he is trustworthy and he is good and he's able to make all these things work together for good that happen in our lives. And maybe these can just be examples to you to either build your faith that God is real and God can do miraculous things like this, or just lead you to have more faith and trust in the Holy Spirit's voice, so that you can know that when God does speak to you, that he is trustworthy and you can trust him. You can lean on what he says. You can trust and believe in what he says and what he's calling you to do, that you, even though it's confusing at the times and you don't have all the answers, you can still trust that he has a reason and a purpose for why he's calling you to do what you have to do, or what he's telling you to step out of or step into. So I guess I hope this video is an encouragement to you, that it can be useful to you in whatever way it needs to be useful to you, whether it's building your faith, building your trust in God's voice, leading you to have a stronger faith in God if you're not sure if God exists or not. Maybe these miracles will be good to build your faith that he is real and he is true. So I just hope this video has been an encouragement and a blessing to you, and I thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, leave them down in the comments below, and I'll be sure to get back to them. Thank you and God bless.